The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because I was eating a sad desk lunch, a lukewarm cup of noodles and half a granola bar, when my phone buzzed with a group text from my sister. A screenshot of a Zola registry page. Pale sage green background, little illustrated flowers in the corners. Her name and her fiancé's name in cursive at the top. No message, just the link. I stared at it for probably 30 seconds. Then I typed back "Congratulations" with 2 exclamation points because 1 felt cold and 3 felt fake, and I set my phone face down on my desk and finished my lunch in silence. Here's what I did not type. When were you going to tell me you were engaged? Here is what I also did not type. I found out the same way your coworkers did. I am 31 years old. I am a project manager at a mid-size logistics company in Columbus, Ohio. I have a 1-bedroom apartment, a used Civic that runs fine, a 401k, I contribute to every pay period, and absolutely no savings cushion because for the last 4 years, every time I tried to build one, something came up. Something always came up. Her name is Tiffany. She is 28, 3 years younger than me, and she has never once in her adult life paid a bill on time. Not because she couldn't. She works, she's a dental hygienist, she makes decent money. But because she has always known, with the kind of deep animal certainty that some people just have, that if she let things go long enough, I would handle it. I don't know when I became that person. I don't think there was one single moment. It was more like water erosion. Small things, over years, until one day you look down and realize the ground underneath you is just gone. It started right after I got my first real job. I was 24, freshly out of college, making $42,000 a year and feeling genuinely rich for the first time in my life. Because before that, I had been making $11 an hour at a copy center. My parents were going through a rough patch. My dad had been laid off, and my mom was working part-time at a pharmacy. And I helped. That part, I don't regret. They needed it and I had it. And that is what family does. But Tiffany watched that happen, and she filed it away. The first time she asked me for money directly, she was 23 and had gotten herself into a situation with a payday loan. She called me crying, which she does very well, and explained that if she didn't pay it off that week, the interest was going to compound to something horrifying and could I please just cover it and she would pay me back by the end of the month. The amount was $340. I paid it. She paid me back $200 and never mentioned the remaining $140 again. When I brought it up once, gently, she said she thought she had already taken care of that and looked genuinely confused, and I let it go because I did not want to be the kind of person who makes a federal case out of $140. That was my first mistake. Not the paying. The letting go. Because what Tiffany learned from that was not my sister helped me when I needed it. What she learned was my sister will absorb the loss and not fight about it. Those are very different lessons. Over the next few years, the amounts got bigger. She needed help with her security deposit when she moved to a new apartment, $800. Her car registration lapsed, and she was about to get a fine, $175. She had a medical bill go to collections, and could I help her settle it before it tanked her credit, $600. Each time there was a reason. Each time there were tears or near tears. Each time she said she would pay me back. She paid me back approximately 40% of what she borrowed. I stopped keeping close track around year 2 because keeping close track made me feel like a terrible sister, which I now understand was exactly the point. By the time the wedding invitation came, I had been quietly floating various aspects of my sister's life for 4 years. I had also lent, and I use that word loosely, a total of somewhere around $9,000. I know that sounds insane. It sounds insane to me too, sitting here now. But it happened in increments of $300 and $500 and $700, spaced out over months, always with a plausible emergency attached, always with my parents in the background making small noises about family taking care of family. My parents didn't ask me to cover Tiffany's life, but they also never told her to stop asking me. And they never, not once, told me that I didn't have to. Anyway, the wedding. I texted her to say congratulations and she responded with a bunch of heart emojis and then 3 days later, called me. I need to talk to you about the wedding, she said. She sounded excited, which relaxed me slightly. I assumed she was going to ask me to be in the bridal party, which I would have said yes to, genuinely, because she is still my sister. And I do still love her in that complicated, load-bearing way you love people who have hurt you. I want to ask you something, and I need you to just hear me out before you say anything, she said. This sentence is never followed by something good. I want you to know that. Whenever someone says, just hear me out, they already know that what they are about to say is not going to land well, and they are preemptively trying to limit your reaction. I know this now. I should have known it then. Marcus's family is covering the rehearsal dinner, she said. And we've got most of the big vendors sorted. But the venue deposit is $4,500 and we're a little short because we had some unexpected expenses come up, Tiffany. And I was thinking, since you've been so good about helping out, maybe you could cover the deposit and we can work out a repayment plan once we're back from the honeymoon, Tiffany. Because honestly, the venue is going to be gone if we don't put something down by Friday, and it's the one we really love. It's in this old converted barn outside of Delaware, and the photos are… Tiffany, stop. She stopped. That's $4,500, I said. I know. But it's a deposit, so we get most of it back if… That's not how venue deposit work, I said. Non-refundable is the standard. You know that. Silence. I can't do that, I said. I'm sorry, she cried. I held the phone and listened to it and felt the old familiar pull. That gravity well of guilt that had been running my financial life for 4 years, and I did not give in to it. I said I was sorry again, and I said I hoped she found something that worked, and I got off the phone as quickly as I could without being cruel about it. Then I sat on my couch for about 20 minutes, not doing anything. My parents called me the next morning. Both of them on speaker, which meant it had been discussed and planned. My mother started, which is always the formation they use when the message is meant to sound gentle. My dad is the closer. My mother said that Tiffany was really upset. My mother said that the venue was very important to Tiffany. My mother said that she understood it was a lot of money, but that weddings are once in a lifetime, and didn't I want my sister's wedding to be special? I said I did want that. I said I just wasn't in a position to cover a $4,500 deposit. My mother said, well, you make good money. I want to pause here because this sentence deserves its own moment. Well, you make good money. Not, we understand it's a big ask. Not, we know you've already helped so much. Not even a passing acknowledgement that this was the 4th year in a row I had been tapped to solve a financial problem that was not mine. Just, you make good money. Said in the tone people use when they are reminding you of something you seem to have forgotten, which implies that the money you earn is somehow already spoken for by the needs of everyone around you. My dad came in then. He said that Tiffany didn't have a lot of people she could turn to. He said that Marcus's family wasn't wealthy. He said that they themselves were on a fixed income now and couldn't contribute what they wished they could. He said, "You've always been the responsible one." He meant it as a compliment. I heard it as a cage. I told them I would think about it. I got off the phone and I did not think about it, by which I mean I thought about almost nothing else for 3 days, which is a different thing. Here is what I thought about. I thought about the $9,000. I thought about the $140 that never came back. I thought about every time I had eaten rice and beans for a week to stay within my grocery budget while simultaneously covering someone else's car registration. I thought about the down payment fund I had started and raided and started and raided, until I basically accepted that owning a home was not going to happen for me for a very long time, while my sister had taken 2 vacations that year, one to Cancun and one to Nashville for a bachelorette party that was not hers. I thought about the fact that I had found out my sister was engaged via group text. I called my best friend. Her name is Audrey. She has known me since the 7th grade, and she does not sugarcoat things, and I told her all of it. Not just the venue deposit, all of it. The full 4 years. There was a long pause after I finished. How much total? Audrey said. I told her the number. Another pause. Does she know you keep track? Audrey said. I don't think she thinks there's anything to keep track of, I said. I think she thinks it's just, I don't know, family money. Communal. Like it flows in one direction, and that's just how it is. And your parents think this is fine. My parents think I'm the responsible one. That's not a compliment, Audrey said. That's an assignment. I wrote that down. I'm not embarrassed about it. I did not cover the venue deposit. Tiffany and Marcus found a different venue, a VFW hall that was cheaper, and I heard about this from my mother in a tone that suggested I should feel guilty about the VFW hall, which I am choosing not to. The wedding was set for the following October. 11 months away. I spent those 11 months doing something I had never done before in my adult life, which was being disciplined about money in a way that did not include a carve-out for my family's emergencies. I opened a separate savings account that I did not tell anyone about. I nicknamed it in the app House Fund, but honestly it functioned more like a sanity fund, because having a number in there that was just mine felt like being able to breathe for the first time in years. I automated a transfer every payday. I did not touch it. During those 11 months, Tiffany asked me for money twice. The first time was in February. Her car needed a new alternator, and she didn't have the $650 to cover it. She texted me because we were not really talking on the phone by then, which I had allowed to happen naturally, without making a thing of it. I texted back that I was really sorry and I hoped she could work something out. She did not respond. My mother called me 3 days later to tell me Tiffany had to put it on a credit card. She said this in the way you might describe a minor tragedy. The second time was in July. She needed $1,200 for what she described as a bridesmaid dress situation that had gotten out of hand. I will not get into the details because I do not fully understand them, but the short version is that she had ordered dresses for her 6 bridesmaids and something had gone wrong and she was now short and could I help? I texted back that I couldn't swing it right now. She said, "Really?" in a way that was clearly not a question. I said, "Yes, really, I was sorry." She said, "Okay then," and did not text me again for 6 weeks. I was a bridesmaid. I want to be clear about that. I bought my own dress, $185. Moss green, actually quite nice. Covered my own hair appointment. Bought a shower gift and a wedding gift off the registry. I showed up. I smiled in every photo. I danced at the reception even though the DJ played 3 Pitbull songs in a row, and I have strong feelings about that. I did all of it because she is my sister, and I was there for the real parts of her wedding day. The parts that don't require a checkbook. The payment request came 11 days later. I was making coffee on a Sunday morning when my phone lit up with a Venmo request from Tiffany. The amount was $3,850. The note said, "Reimbursement. Wedding expenses you agreed to cover." I set down my coffee. I had agreed to cover nothing. I had explicitly declined to cover anything beyond my own bridesmaid responsibilities. There had been no conversation, no agreement, no handshake deal. There was not even a vague implication. The last time Tiffany and I had talked about money was when I said I can't swing it right now in July and she said okay then. I sat with my phone for a while. I went and got my coffee. I drank some of it. I looked at the Venmo request again. $3,850. I opened my notes app and I wrote down a number. The number was $9,400, which was my updated running total of what I had given or lent to my sister over the previous 4+ years. Not counting the bridesmaid dress, the shower gift, the wedding gift, or the hair appointment, which I was absolutely not counting because those were normal things a normal bridesmaid does, and I was not going to be petty about normal things. $9,400. Then I opened Venmo and I declined the request. She called me within 4 minutes. "Did you just decline my payment request?" she said. It wasn't a question. "I did," I said. "Why?" "Because I didn't agree to cover those expenses." "We talked about it," she said, "at the rehearsal dinner. You said." I said your centerpieces looked beautiful. That was the extent of our financial conversation. You said you wanted to help make the day special. I said that to Mom. On the phone. 11 months ago? Before I said I couldn't cover the venue deposit. There was a long silence. "I have a spreadsheet," she said finally, "and I cannot tell you why, but this made me want to laugh, which I did not do." "A spreadsheet of what?" I said. "Of everything you said you'd help with." "Tiffany," I said, "I'm going to need you to send me that spreadsheet because I would genuinely love to see it." She did not send the spreadsheet. What she did instead was escalate in a way I had not anticipated. She called my parents. This was expected. What was less expected was that my mother called me 20 minutes later and told me in a voice tight with something that was trying to be calm that Tiffany was saying I had promised to help cover wedding costs and then backed out at the last minute, and that Marcus's family was now involved in the conversation and that this was becoming a whole thing. It is not a thing, I said. I declined a Venmo request for $350 that I never agreed to pay. She says you did agree. She says a lot of things, I said. She said she'd pay me back. Repeatedly. Over 4 years. For $9,400. Silence. What? My mother said. 9,400, I said. That's the total. I've been keeping track. I had never said the number out loud to my parents before. I had mentioned helping Tiffany in vague terms. I had never given them the sum. I don't know why, some combination of not wanting to seem like I was keeping score and genuinely not wanting to deal with this conversation. But I was done not wanting to deal with it. My mother said that couldn't be right. My mother said she hadn't realized it was that much. My mother said, slowly, the way people speak when they are recalibrating, that she supposed Tiffany did ask for help a lot. I said yes. I said she did. There was a long pause, and then my mother said, well, she's going through a lot right now. She just got married. She's stressed, Mom. I said. I love you. I'm not paying the $38.5 fee. I also think it would be fair if Tiffany and I sat down at some point and talked about the $9,400. Not today. But at some point. My mother said she would talk to Tiffany. Tiffany did not want to talk to me. What Tiffany wanted to do was text my 2 closest friends. She had their numbers from years ago. Family events, the kind of ambient contact that accumulates over time, and tell them that I had ruined her wedding by promising financial support and then withdrawing it. One of my friends texted me a screenshot immediately. The other called me also immediately and said, "What is going on?" I told them. Both of them. The whole thing, the way I had told Audrey. By the end of both conversations, I was tired in a specific way that is different from regular tired. The kind of tired that comes from having been carrying something heavy for a long time and only just realizing how heavy it was. The next morning, I did something I had been putting off for probably 2 years. I sat down with my actual bank statements, not my mental accounting, not my general sense of things, but the real PDFs downloaded from my bank, and I went through 4 years of transactions. I found every transfer to Tiffany. I found the Venmo payments. I found the times I had paid things directly. Her landlord once, her insurance company once, a debt collector once. The number was $9,600, higher than I thought. I made a document, line by line, dates, amounts, what each one was for. I formatted it simply, nothing dramatic, just a clean table. The total at the bottom was $9,600. I sent it to Tiffany in a text with no message attached. She read it. I could see the read receipt and did not respond for 2 days. When she finally texted back, she said, "This is really hurtful. I thought you helped me because you wanted to, not because you were keeping score." I thought about that for a while. Then I typed, "I helped you because I loved you and I wanted things to be okay for you." The score wasn't the point. The point is that I'd been treating your financial stability as my responsibility for 4 years, and I can't do that anymore. I hope your marriage is really happy. I genuinely mean that. I did not type. Also, you tried to charge me $3,850 for a wedding I just attended as a bridesmaid, and that is unhinged. I thought it though. That was 8 months ago. Things are not fixed. I want to be honest about that because I have seen enough of these stories end with a tidy reconciliation scene, everyone tearful and understanding. Lessons learned all around, and that is not what happened. My sister and I are not close right now. We exchanged texts on birthdays. We were both at Thanksgiving, which was quiet in specific places and loud in others, the way holidays are when something is unresolved. My parents are somewhere in the middle of processing things. My mother told me in October that she had not understood how much I had been carrying. I believed her. I also know that understanding something and knowing what to do with that understanding are different things, and we are all still figuring out the second part. What I can tell you is this. I have $14,000 in my house fund, not because I suddenly started earning more. I got a 3% raise last year, which is nice, but not transformative. I have $14,000 because I stopped treating my paycheck as a communal resource for everyone in my family except me. I stopped saying yes first and figuring out the impact later. I stopped doing the mental math that always ended with, I can cover it, I'll just be tight this month, as if every month wasn't already tight because of the month before it. I have a meeting with a mortgage broker next week. A real one, not a someday, I'll look into it conversation, but an actual scheduled appointment with a real person at a real bank. I am 31 years old and I am buying myself a house because I finally decided that my financial future was mine to build and not everyone else's to draw down. I don't think Tiffany is a bad person. I want to say that because it's true and because I think stories like this can flatten people into villains, and she isn't a villain. She is someone who was allowed to keep asking and kept asking, and I was someone who kept saying yes, and neither of us ever stopped to look at what that pattern was doing to both of us, to her sense of responsibility and to my ability to build a life. I stopped the pattern. That's the whole story. There's no dramatic confrontation with a perfect resolution. There's no moment where everyone cried and said the right things. There's just a Tuesday morning when I looked at a Venmo request for money I never promised and decided that whatever I was afraid of losing, the peace, the approval, the sense of being the good one, I was done being afraid of it. I declined the request. The account is closed, and for the first time in 4 years, it's just mine. I've been thinking a lot lately about what it actually costs to be the responsible one. Not in dollars, though I can tell you that number exactly now, down to the last transaction, because I went through 4 years of bank statements on a Sunday morning and added it all up myself. I mean the other cost, the one that doesn't show up in any spreadsheet, the years I spent making myself smaller financially so that someone else could stay comfortable, the vacations I didn't take, the house I kept not buying, the version of my life I kept deferring, because there was always something more urgent happening to somebody else. I think about Tiffany, not with anger anymore, mostly with a kind of tired clarity. And I realized that what happened between us wasn't really about the $3,850 Venmo request. That was just the moment the pattern finally had a number on it. The pattern itself had been running for years, quietly, the way bad habits run. She asked because asking had always worked. I paid because paying had always felt like the easier path, and both of us called it love, which is the part that took me the longest to untangle. There's a version of this story where I'm the villain, where I kept score when I should have given freely, where I sent that document of transactions out of spite, where I chose money over family. I've sat with that version. I've turned it over. And what I keep coming back to is this. I was never keeping score to hold it over her. I was keeping score because some part of me needed proof that what I was feeling, that slow, grinding sense of being used, was real and not just selfishness dressed up as exhaustion. It was real. Here's what I've learned, and I don't say this lightly because it took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out. The kindest thing you can do for the people you love is not to make yourself endlessly available as a financial safety net. It sounds backwards. It felt backwards to me for years. But when you absorb every consequence for someone, you don't protect them. You protect them from the feedback that would actually help them grow. Tiffany never had to figure out the alternator. She never had to sit with the stress of a maxed credit card long enough to change her habits. Because I was always there, one text message away from making it okay again, I made it too okay for too long. And the thing about being the responsible one, the capable one, the one who has it together, is that it can become its own kind of trap if you're not careful. People see competence and they stop asking whether it has a limit. They just keep drawing on it. My parents weren't cruel. Tiffany wasn't calculating in any premeditated way. They were just operating inside a system that I had built and maintained and never once said out loud was unsustainable. I had to say it out loud. That was my part. Audrey told me once that the version of strength I had been performing, the quiet, self-sacrificing, never complain kind, wasn't actually strength. It was avoidance with good PR. Real strength, she said, is being willing to disappoint people in the short term. Because you've decided to be honest about what you can and cannot give. That landed hard. It still does. The mortgage broker appointment is next Thursday. I have $14,000 saved. I built that in 8 months by simply deciding that my financial future belonged to me, not to emergencies that weren't mine, not to guilt, not to the version of myself that said yes because no felt like abandonment. I don't know exactly what happens next with my sister and me. I hope we find our way back to something real. But I know that whatever we build from here has to be built on honesty, not on me quietly paying the toll every time. The account is closed, and I have never in my adult life felt more like myself.